Ghislain uses his own mana to stabilize Rosalyn's ruptured mana paths, preventing her immediate death while ending the session early. Outraged by the scene of her coughing up blood, the butler furiously threatens to stop the treatment and consult the Marquis. Ghislain casually shuts him down, reminding him that the Marquis authorized the procedure and that halting midway would leave her condition far worse. Unable to overrule the order, the butler instead convinces Knight Commander Taleo to tighten security, deploying knights and surrounding the estate so Ghislain's group cannot escape if things go wrong. When Ghislain returns for the next session, Rosalyn calmly questions him about her condition. She recognizes that she will die without treatment and that she is being used as leverage against her father, though she doubts Ghislain's credibility. Ghislain confirms she could die during the procedure if her will fails, rejecting anesthesia as it would guarantee her death. As Ghislain checks her wrist, Rosalyn suddenly pulls a hidden dagger from under her pillow and thrusts it at his temple. Ghislain effortlessly catches the blade between his fingers. When she demands he stop the torture, Ghislain notices a glint of madness in her eyes and points out her contradiction. Keeping a dagger by her bed proves she actually harbors a desire to die rather than continue living in her current state. Ghislain mockingly tells Rosalyn that despite holding a weapon, her half-hearted mindset means she lacks the resolve to deliver a lethal blow. The tension escalates as the butler and estate knights face off against Ghislain's aides, but the standoff is interrupted when the Marquis of Branford and Knight Commander Taleo enter the room. Surprised to see Rosalyn bloody, disheveled, and holding a dagger, the Marquis offers to halt the treatment entirely, promising that Ghislain will simply be allowed to leave. Realizing that both her father and Ghislain view her as a helpless pawn to manipulate, deep fury wells up within Rosalyn. Throwing her dagger to the floor, she refuses to let them decide her fate. Fueled by pure spite, she declares she will continue the treatment solely so she can personally oversee Ghislain's execution if he fails. She demands that the butler bind her limbs with ropes and gag her mouth for all future sessions to eliminate any resistance. Over the next week, Rosalyn's fierce determination enables her to endure the excruciating mana treatment. Annoyed by the butler's constant badgering, Ghislain eventually expels everyone, including his own aides and the estate knights, from the room. Working in total isolation, Ghislain aggressively uses his mana to tear through her blocked energy pathways, causing her internal mana roads to burst and making her cough up blood repeatedly. Despite reaching the brink of death, Rosalyn's venomous desire to see Ghislain executed keeps her alive. On the promised 15th day, the treatment process is finally completed. Rosalyn passes out after whispering a final threat to Ghislain, who spends the night resting beside her bed. As dawn breaks on the final day, the Marquis of Branford and his knights forcibly open the door to demand the result. After the arduous 15-day treatment, Rosalyn wakes up exhausted and immediately orders her father's knights to arrest Ghislain for the agonizing pain and humiliation she suffered. However, before the knights can act, the Marquis orders her mask removed to assess the results of the cure. Expecting her face to remain disfigured, Rosalyn is stunned when the butler and servants react with tears of joy. Looking in a mirror, she discovers her face is completely clear and healed, allowing her to step into the sunlight without pain. Overwhelmed by relief after escaping her years-long ordeal, Rosalyn breaks down in tears, prompting everyone to give her privacy. With the bet officially won, the Marquis of Branford convenes his main retainers in the hall to honor his promise. Recognizing Ghislain's success, the Marquis invites him to demand his reward, expecting a massive sum or valuable concession. Ghislain casually requests that the Marquis become his official political guardian. Realizing this means the Marquis will be permanently responsible for shielding Ghislain and backing his future endeavors. The Marquis and his retainers are left utterly stunned by Ghislain's sheer audacity. The Marquis of Branford deliberates over Ghislain's bold request. Recognizing Ghislain's exceptional potential, growing power, and the strategic advantage of bolstering the royalist faction against the Duke of Delfine, the Marquis agrees. He publicly declares himself Ghislain's official patron, pledging that any enemy of Ghislain is an enemy of House Branford. Ghislain relishingly accepts, knowing this provides a crucial political shield for his territory and family. Shortly after, Lady Rosalyn enters the hall fully dressed, her skin clear and free of disfigurement. Presenting herself with refined nobility and elegance, She completely reverses her earlier hostile demeanor. She gracefully thanks Ghislain for curing her and denies ever uttering threats or holding a dagger to his head, feigning complete innocence while giving him a menacing, silent warning behind her fan. After Ghislain reluctantly plays along, Rosalyn promises to repay her debt to him using all her influence and resources, though Ghislain initially declines. Rosalyn insidiously insists on becoming Ghislain's personal patron as well. While Ghislain attempts to decline to avoid her troublesome presence, she opens her fan, radiates a terrifying aura, and politely coerces him into accepting. Behind her fan and sweet facade, she secretly threatens the household retainers to keep them in line. Unbeknownst to Ghislain, having Rosalyn as a patron links him directly to her maternal family, including her grandfather, the kingdom's chancellor, granting him enormous political leverage in the capital. Shifting his focus to his primary objective, Ghislain addresses the Marquis of Branford regarding his greatest need, manpower for the underdeveloped Fenris estate. He shockingly requests that the Marquis transfer subjects directly from the royal domain to his lands. When the Marquis and his retainers question such an audacious request, Ghislain reveals his sharp political insight. He sees through the Marquis' secret plan to back the Brabant estate, home to the Crimson Flame Tower, as the primary royalist pillar in the north against the Duke of Delfine. Ghislain points out the flaws of the other northern lords, noting that Rapold is too arrogant, Desmond is suspicious, and the rest are either corrupt or impoverished. He boldly proposes that the Marquis back House Fenris instead to represent the north, arguing that supporting an estate where the Marquis serves as official guardian gives him far greater direct control and strategic advantage. Amused and deeply impressed by Ghislain's political acumen and sheer audacity, the Marquis realizes Ghislain has deduced secrets that even capital nobles had failed to figure out. Ghislain urges the Marquis of Branford to abandon the Brabant estate as the royalist faction's northern base and divert all prepared resources to House Ferdium instead. He explains that Brabant is a lost cause because its vassals have already been secretly subverted by the Duke of Delfine, meaning any royalist aid sent there will only fall into enemy hands. Addressing the Marquis's doubts regarding his reliability, Ghislain encourages him to trust his father, Count Ferdium, whose decades of loyal service and border defense make him an undeniable pillar of integrity. Ghislain further reveals that Count Desmond secretly supported Dougal during their recent war against Ferdium, proving that Desmond is a factional enemy and that backing Ferdium directly aligns with the royalist agenda against the Duke. Ghislain then presses forward with two crucial requests. First, he asks for commoners to be transferred directly from the royal domain to address the critical labor shortage in the underdeveloped Fenris estate. Second, he requests a 3-year tax exemption for House Ferdium and its vassals to reinvest funds into territory development, a move that immediately signals to a dread-filled Claude that Ghislain is plotting another massive, expensive scheme. The Marquis tests Ghislain by offering to arrange a political marriage between Ghislain's younger sister and a prominent royalist house, or even a branch of House Branford, in exchange for these favors. Seeing through the proposal as a subtle attempt to take his sister as a leverage hostage, Ghislain firmly rejects the offer. Unfazed by the retainer's disdain, Ghislain reiterates that he will never sacrifice his family's freedom for immediate gain. His unwavering resolve impresses Rosalyn, who finds his conviction admirable despite the apparent foolishness of turning down such a powerful alliance. Recognizing that Ghislain's integrity separates him from the manipulative figures of the Delfine Duchy, the Marquis grants his original requests, agreeing to redirect all military supplies, food, and royal domain citizens away from Brabant and directly to House Ferdium over a 5-year timeline. To address the immediate labor shortage during the multi-year population relocation, Ghislain proposes purchasing slaves in bulk and specifically requests high-value non-human slaves, namely elves and dwarves, to rapidly elevate the estate's quality of labor. When the Marquis questions how Ghislain intends to fund such an extraordinarily expensive endeavor, Ghislain brazenly asks the Marquis to act as his financial guarantor. The Marquis immediately shuts him down, leaving Ghislain to turn his hopeful gaze toward his newly minted personal sponsor, Lady Rosalyn. Terrified that backing such an astronomical loan will lead to financial ruin, Rosalyn feigns a sudden illness and flees the hall behind her fan. Realizing no one will guarantee the funds, Ghislain reluctantly accepts that he will have to finance the endeavor himself. And the Marquis concludes the meeting by stating it will take a few days to organize the logistics of their agreed support. Despite finding social gatherings an annoying waste of time, Ghislain reluctantly attends a grand banquet hosted by the Marquis of Branford after being ordered to do so. The Marquis uses the gathering to officially announce his patronage of Ghislain and command the present nobility to treat the young baron as they would him, while lower-ranked nobles murmur about Ghislain's lack of status and resent the shift in royal resources from Brabant to Ferdium. The mood drastically turns to amazement when Lady Rosalyn makes her public entrance. Her skin is completely restored, looking even better than before, proving the effectiveness of Ghislain's cosmetics and captivating the entire room, including a delighted Mariel. Although the Marquis formally opens the banquet following Rosalyn's triumphant return, an uncomfortable silence washes over the hall. High-ranking nobles refuse to move socialize, leaving lower-ranked attendees hesitant as a tense atmosphere settles over the room, with all eyes fixed squarely on Ghislain. Navigating the initial awkwardness of being the banquet's main focus, Ghislain chats briefly with Rosalyn, who teases him about his overwhelming popularity. Recognizing that he needs to acknowledge the royalist leadership, Ghislain carefully considers the order of his greetings to manage factional egos. He approaches Count Aylesbury first, delighting the Count and Countess Mariel by elevating their financial faction's prestige. Next, he speaks with Count Billow Norton, Rosalyn's uncle and leader of the civil bureaucracy, who warmly pledges to expedite Ghislain's requested tax deferments and slave procurement logistics. Finally, he greets the seething Marquis Maurice Macquarie, Supreme Commander of the Royal Army, offering a polite yet calm response that leaves the military leader fuming over being prioritized last. While lower-ranked nobles swarm Ghislain with gifts and fake pleasantries, secretly scorning him as a simple merchant, young noblewomen surround him in hopes of charming the Marquis's new protege. Ghislain brutally shuts them down with blunt, half-hearted answers, unknowingly stoking a quiet, jealous rage in Rosalyn as she watches from behind her fan. The festive mood shatters when an uninvited guest makes a sudden entrance. Viscount Raul Joseph, widely known as the Limping Devil. As the cunning strategist and chief aide to the rival Duke of Delfine, Raul's unexpected appearance at a core royalist event causes the Marquis of Branford to glare coldly and triggers a wave of suppressed murderous intent from Ghislain. Accompanied by a masked escort knight, Raul casually bypasses the surrounding nobles to confront Ghislain directly and requests a private conversation. Following Viscount Raul Joseph into a private room, Ghislain faces the ruthless strategist head-on. Raul acknowledges that the Duke's faction had been secretly developing cosmetics of their own, expressing irritation that Ghislain's superior products have taken over the market and cured Lady Rosalyn. Beyond cosmetics, Raul scrutinizes Ghislain, recognizing him as the unexpected force that systematically dismantled the Duke's northern plots, including Emilia's rebellion, the isolation of Ferdium, and the weakening of the Crimson Flame Tower. Realizing Ghislain is far more than a mere scoundrel, and hoping to pull talent away from the royalist faction, Raul extends a massive offer. House Ferdium can abandon its barren northern lands to become vassals of the Delfine Duchy, in exchange for rich estates in the fertile south and full political backing. Ghislain inwardly scoffs at the offer, knowing the true strategic value of the Forest of Beasts and refusing to align with the faction responsible for his past suffering. Barely suppressing his urge to kill the strategist on the spot, Ghislain firmly rejects the proposal and cheekily suggests that Raul join the royalist faction instead. Amused yet bitterly disappointed by Ghislain's defiance, Raul cold-bloodedly warns him that he has discarded his single chance at survival and chosen a path to inevitable destruction.